Okay, let's dive into this. Because, well, we've all seen it, right? The endless, exhausting stream of vague, fluffy motivational advice. You know the kind. The self-help books that make you feel all warm and fuzzy while you're curled up on the couch reading them, but then leave you completely lost the second your alarm goes off the next day. Today, we're doing something radically different in this explainer. We're looking at a system that treats your mind not as some artsy poetry project, but as a literal hard-hat engineering site.
So here's the core mandate we're exploring today. And it's a tough one. If a personal development philosophy doesn't literally change what you do on a random Tuesday morning, it is entirely useless. Honestly, it's just noise. Shifting from abstract theory to this human engineering framework means we have to stop treating success as this vague, floating concept. Instead, we have to start treating personal sovereignty as a literal construction project. And this architectural metaphor, it comes straight from the life and work of Larry Gibbs, specifically in his book, Simple Living and High Thinking. The absolute, non-negotiable rule of his framework is this: theory must pour concrete. A high-performance life isn't a happy accident. It is built, brick by brick. Just like a building needs a massive, solid foundation before you can even think about slapping a roof on it, your internal philosophy absolutely has to translate into poured concrete execution. You can't just talk about being resilient, you have to literally engineer the structural capacity for it.
So here is our architectural blueprint for this explainer. First, the engineering framework. Second, the clock shop warning. Third, the Muhammad Ali metric. Fourth, the wizard diagnostic. And finally, number 5, the Tuesday morning reality.
All right, section 1, the engineering framework.
Now we're shifting from Gibbs's abstract theory into a literal, digital, load-bearing structure. It's a new app called the Sovereign Builder. Welcome to the master dashboard. And this brilliantly illustrates what it actually looks like in practice. Look, this isn't some passive reading app, it's an active orientation system. It treats your personal sovereignty as a construction project built from thousands of tiny, highly specific daily inputs. You can actually see the telemetry engines here, designed to debug your daily conduct. It's all about taking those massive, grand ideals and breaking them down into clickable, loggable micro-habits.
Moving right along, section 2, tool 1, the clock shop warning.
Our first structural pillar inside the app targets something very specific and, quite aggressively, independent thinking. To grasp why this tool even exists, you kind of have to ask yourself, are you trapped measuring your own success by totally unexamined standards? Are you playing the unfulfilling game of following the follower? There's this brilliant parable from Earl Nightingale that Gibbs mentions. Picture this. For 33 years, a factory timekeeper checks his pocket watch against a local clock shop window every single morning before blowing the noon factory whistle. Sounds incredibly precise, right? But when the clock shop owner finally retires, he makes a shocking confession. For 33 years, that shop owner had been setting his clocks by the sound of the factory whistle. They were literally just relying on each other, stuck in a massive circular loop of following the follower.
That circular trap? That is exactly what the app's first tool, the clock shop warning, is designed to dismantle. It forces you to audit the rules you've just inherited. Because let's face it, a huge chunk of our definitions of success, what car we should drive, what job is considered safe, what actually makes a good life, they're just canned rules we blindly accepted from school, from church, our families, or our peers.
And here is the exact UI where that excavation happens. You go in and log that inherited, canned rule into the system. You expose its roots. Maybe it's just societal consensus, or maybe a corporate security trap. And then, this is the crucial part, you actively override it with a verified, independent truth. You stop setting your watch to someone else's totally unexamined clock, and you finally define success by your own freedom to build.
Which brings us to section 3, tool 2, the Muhammad Ali metric.
Okay, so once you've cleared out the bad code, you have to write the new code, right? And this centers on what the framework calls the subconscious saturation index. Now, this concept is directly inspired by Muhammad Ali and his legendary trainer, Angelo Dundee. Dundee observed that Ali's greatness wasn't just this surface-level bravado or natural swagger. No, it was a deep-seated belief built from thousands of purposeful inputs. The reality is, you don't rewrite your subconscious mind by just wishing, hoping, or listening to one motivational tape. It requires sheer volume. It requires daily, deliberate cognitive repetitions to build true mental reflexes. So the app introduces the Muhammad Ali subconscious metric. It operates on the hard, unavoidable truth that greatness is basically just an accumulation of high-fidelity cognitive repetitions. If you want to override years of unexamined doubt, you have to purposefully input great thoughts every single day. It's a mechanical process, guys, not a mystical one. So the crucial point is that you are aiming for 100% saturation. Why? Because as the text ruthlessly points out, when things get incredibly tough, when the panic and the fatigue set in, the external facade always strips away. When you hit a crisis, you don't rise to the level of your hopes. No way. You fall to the level of your deepest mental reflexes. Aiming for 100% saturation is exactly what makes greatness your default reflex when you're under fire.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the active belief override engine practically manages this day to day. It literally lets you click a button to log a +1 subconscious input every single day. You sit down, read your core creeds on your identity, your dignity, your independence, and you manually log the repetition. You are actively driving up your saturation index, one click, one single thought at a time, literally reprogramming your own deep-seated instincts.
All right, let's get into Section 4. Tool 3, the Wizard Diagnostic.
So what happens when things inevitably go wrong out there in the real world? Well, this third module is designed to completely destroy the victim mentality, and it uses the brilliant metaphor of the Wizard of Oz. We all remember the story, right? Dorothy and her friends are totally terrified, staring in awe at this ominous, powerful wizard with his booming voice in the smoke, just waiting for him to grant their favors and save the day. But when the curtain falls, it's just a little old man pulling some levers. The entire illusion shatters. In our own lives, we do this all the time. We sit around waiting for an external wizard. You know, a perfect market, a better boss, a lucky break to swoop in and save us.
The Wizard Diagnostic stops this whole waiting game cold, using 3 very specific steps. First, you have to catch the complaint. You need to identify exactly where you are sitting around waiting for an external savior. Second, you pivot. You look away from what you can't control and you focus entirely on the internal assets and tools you already own. And third, you execute what the framework calls a 1-inch action vector.
Take a look at the diagnostic tool in action here. It forces the user to physically write down their waiting state. So for example, maybe you write, "I can't scale my business because the local economy is completely flat." Boom, the app flags this. It points out you're relying on an external excuse. Then it forces the pivot to your own internal assets, your skills, your network, your daily output. Finally, it demands that 1-inch action vector. We're not talking about a massive, overwhelming 10-year business plan. We're talking about a single inch of localized effort you can take right this second. Like, say, reaching out to 3 specific prospective clients entirely outside your local market. It dismantles the illusion of helplessness instantly.
And that brings us to Section 5, the Tuesday morning reality.
Let's move to and see how this builds. This is the climax of the entire framework, where all 3 pillars finally fuse together. Over on the left, we have the app's active creeds registry, which is where all those micro-habits and daily inputs are tracked. And on the right, we see the master builder methodology, showing how a physical, enduring structure is actually erected. They are perfectly aligned. Think about it. You absolutely cannot build the roof of practical competency out there in the real world if you haven't laid the internal bedrock foundation of your self-vision and beliefs first. This proves that Larry Gibbs' philosophy isn't just nice-sounding, fluffy theory. These digital micro-habits perfectly construct an enduring physical reality.
So we're going to end this explainer with the only question that actually matters in a practical engineering framework. Now that you know exactly how to stop following the follower, and you know that true greatness requires daily, deliberate cognitive inputs, what is your 1-inch action vector for tomorrow morning? The concrete is waiting to be poured, but the real work, that's entirely up to you.